Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. Truthfully, on the lifeboat. We're back in the saddle again. Good to see all of you. Shannon, good to see you. Rolling Stone, Sandy Wandy, Tree Hugger. Anna, good to see you. Michael J, D. Audrey Gore, Flick, Fox, Tommy Boy. Hello, Dennis the Menace. Good to see you, man. Happy to be here. Rolling Stone. Katrina, Kat, Taekwondo. There she is. Anik Alexander. Good to see you. Kelly B. Uh-oh. Oh, no. Did you do it?
I did 2 drops on edgy stomach. I forgot I didn't eat.
No, man.
I'm a cramp from the sore ship.
Anywhere but away from me. Poor Johnny. You should see the video that Johnny just did. It's probably not up yet, but he just did a lot of tincture. I mean, a brutal amount of tincture, and it's that 13 million Scoville unit kind of tincture, just all kinds of ugly. But that is part of what he does. Paula Puffer, good to see you. Kat Kaplan, it's okay. It's a little less. Your emojis won't be as fun. Marie, good to see you. Well, people, let me tell you how much fun I had over the time that I was gone, and I'll tell you as much as I possibly can about what was going on. I am somewhat restricted in things that I can say, but my the option of either wanting to write a book or perhaps a film based on the story of my life is what I am in negotiation for, and it is a odd procedure because there's a lot of different ways it can be done, and one is where they just say we're gonna buy the rights to tell the story. It doesn't necessarily mean the story will ever get told, but they give you a chunk of money and it buys the rights for X period of time. But as it gets deeper and we make a decision which direction it's going to go in, because it's going to go in one or the other, it's something I will keep you in the loop, I promise. And I'll tell you something else. It's something that isn't going to mess with this. We won't tell anyone, so you can tell us anything. You know, I trust you, Valerie. I do. I trust you, and I trust everybody else here. It's just all of those people that come by later on, because occasionally word does get out. Sometimes you just do not get sometimes announcements don't go out the way they're supposed to, and you don't see nearly as many people. It would not be. It would be a film. It would not be a limited series. They were talking about a one-shot film kind of a thing. And Deaudre Gore, it is a very difficult choice to hand over the rights to your story, especially if there's a bunch of demands. For instance, I don't want the mother of my kids harassed. We're divorced and we've moved on, but I don't have animosity there. And hey, there's a cat that understands the game. Of course, the cat cam currently is out of action, but we'll be back tomorrow, or maybe even this afternoon. I have to. Calhoun will be back here. By the way, he is on the other side of the glass. It's which is great. It's so nice to have him back. Squirrel lost it last night. I'm not going to let them harass my. I'm not going to let them harass any of my exes. I don't want that to happen. It's. I don't think that it's something that. And the other thing is this: I would like the. I don't want this to be about a bank robber. So it'll get worked out one way or the other, right? It won't get made, or it'll get made the way that I want them to do it. Because I have gone down this road in really small doses in other ways, where I go and do a video and I think that the video is going to be portrayed in a particular way. And then you find out that isn't even in the ballpark of how they portray you. In fact, they're going to do the exact opposite. Squirrel already has an agent. Erica, don't get it messed up. Squirrel has an agent. Squirrel is in demand, for real. Forever wanting to be, they want to cut ribbons at shopping centers. I mean, it's a living hell. You have no idea how often this guy gets Tom Cruise would be an interesting choice to play Tommy. Oh, yeah. Why not, right? Jack Reacher was 6'10", and they had him play Reacher. Why not? Oh, I will show you I will post the pic that made me jealous. He sent me a couple of them. In both of them, she was sound asleep on top of him in one way or the other. Yeah, we do not want a Michael Orr situation. Dixie 504 says, "Can I be the makeup artist? Are you referring for me or the cat?" Because again, Squirrel does get she's a diva. I think you'd be really surprised. I think you would be really, really surprised. Hopefully Aaron is feeling better. I'm hoping that, by the way, that silver plaque, I don't know if you can see that, that has been replaced by a picture of me and my brother laughing hysterically because it is one of our favorite pictures of all time. It's just such a great shot. It really is. It's the lifts in little Tommy Cruise's shoes would be immense. Oh, that is too funny. That is too funny. Her snacks need to be upgraded. Hey, don't even say that, right? But I like the word snack. What a great concept. Instead of the T word, like she didn't move. I said it and she didn't even look at me. That's fantastic. This is genius. Why have I been using that stupid T word? Snacks. Cooking with grandma. I am suffering from PMS, pre-medallion syndrome. Next week on the 17th, I get my 4-year medallion. Being free of that obsessive craving is a miracle for this old gal. You know what? How damn cool is that? Huh? Congratulations. 4 years is a long time, people. You know what we call that? Winning. Where's Charlie Sheen when you need him? Right? Winning. 4 years. Well done. Cooking with grandma. Well done. How did you refer to yourself? This old gal. Congratulations. You don't look like an old gal. Congratulations. That is one of the coolest things ever. And look at this. I'm catching up so that I'm not behind on the comments. This keeps Spanx Calhoun from wanting to slap me in the head when I'm alone with him later. He could be an abusive kid. Don't let him fool you. Like, he looks nice, but when dad's not running this right, oh man. I mean, there's trouble. There is trouble. Perfectly imperfect. Good to see you. Glad that you're here. Henny, I've missed you so. It is so good to see you. JD, Shannon Smith, Rolling Stone. What did I miss? There we go. 2 months and 2 days. Well, that is fantastic. The Sunday check-in would have been a little tougher around here. So sorry, but it is fantastic. That is so cool. How cool is that? Do you feel like a rock star? That's about the phase where I started to get to what they call the pink cloud, right? And you got to be a little careful during that phase because you do start going, right? Right? You start puffing up, chest starts rolling back, you start feeling like, you know what? I can take on the world. And that is a great feeling. And it's a legit feeling. But for me, very often that feeling started to get to a point where my brain would go, I've never felt this before. I've never felt this before. If you start feeling something that you've never felt before, start journaling, start getting out of the room, right? Start talking about it. Because sometimes success can do as much damage as failure. In fact, for a lot of people, myself being one of them, success has always been my downfall. For real. I was one of, I struggled with I struggled with success. I'm not exactly sure what, I'm sure a lot of people do this. Here's what happens. You spend a lot of time wasted, right? You spend a lot of time doing drugs, and the default setting becomes failure. All right, Lisa, You got to run to a doctor's appointment in a blizzard. Please be careful. Please be careful. You know what? It always scares me when people are driving in blizzards. It's been a long time since I drove in the snow, but you know what? I used to be a complete moron about it. I loved driving in the snow more than anything in the world. It's my 45th birthday, and I don't know how I feel about it. Never expected to be here this long. Well, if this is your 45th birthday, right? This is the year, right, that you go out and get the tattoo that looks like the little center things that we had to put into a 45 record. Do you remember the little pieces of plastic that you had to put into the center of the 45 record so that you could play it on a regular record player, the kind without the little 45 adapter? You know what I'm talking about. You could have a 45 adapter where you stacked like 7 or 8. You could control what the songs were going to be. And one would drop right after another. And because they had the big fat hole in the middle, you remember. Yeah. So a lot of people at 45 get that tattoo, right? Then the next year, you're part of the B-sides, right? Because you're on the other side of 45, right? You always got like a Rolling Stone on one side, and then on the other side, they just gave you a song you did not want to hear, right? Or the best example ever is probably The Day the Music Died. Long, long time ago. You guys know that song, right? Drove my Chevy to the levee, but the levee was dry. You know the tune? Okay. The other side of that guy only had one head. It made him a gazillionaire, right? And people are going to say to me right now, no, he had Starry Night. Starry Night wasn't a hit, but it was the B-side. It was the song that was on the other side of that 45. So we all know Starry, Starry Night by Don McLean, but not because it was a great song, but because it was on the other side of that. The B-sides, Deaudre Gore's right. God bless you. This happens. This happens from time to time. And this is where I was going with this, by the way. Danny's mom, thank you so much. Thank you so much. How cool is that? But that's where I was going with this, people. I'm a B-side, right? I'm on the other side of 45. And you know what? My life started at 46. Right? I didn't really get the memo. I didn't get the memo until much closer to 45, I guess. But at 46, I started to do what I wanted to do, and I started to move forward in life the way I wanted to. And you know what? Damn right. And it happens in rock and roll a bunch of times where they go, all right, we're going to release a single, and then we're going to put, this on the backside, and they pick some kind of a random thing. It happened a lot, believe it or not, with Billy Joel, because if you read his biography, he used to fight with record labels all the time. He said he used to hate the songs that they would pick to push out as, all right, this is going to be the 45 off the album, because that's, they used to push a single, get it out into radio stations and things like that. And he said, if you listen to the music that became hits, that's really not my best stuff. Rolling Stone, always. Alice's Restaurant, played on Thanksgiving. I talk about this every Thanksgiving, and people think I'm crazy. So I'm glad that you said it. There are still radio stations that every Thanksgiving play 24 hours a day. So, like Captain Jack is a song by Billy Joel that he always wanted to be. He thought that should be a song that they led with. And they didn't. They put some really, I can't remember what they put on the front of it. They put a good song on the front of it. But it ended up being among his fans, Captain Jack is one of the more popular tunes. Oh, she's so happy. She really is. I wish the cat cam was here, and this cat is really in just chill out mode. Although I'll be honest with you, I don't think she missed me. Really, I mean, John, I think she just really took, and Johnny just sort of took over. They made a movie of Alice's Restaurant. You're like the third person that has said that to me, and I cannot, for the life of me, remember that. Love Attila. Attila the Hassle. Love Attila. Billy Joel's first band, I don't know if that's the reference, but Attila the Hassle was the name of Billy Joel's first band. And it looked like a heavy metal band. If you look at pictures I have their album, and it's awful. It looks like, on the cover, it looks something like more like a Kiss album than it does like anything. It's really, really funny stuff. Carantha, tell us why you're having a bad day. And you know what? How about some thoughts and prayers for you? You know, bad days suck. And I am really happy to hear that we can be here for you today. You know something, JD? That's one of the coolest things. Honestly, JD, Robert Downey Jr. would have, that's a great freaking comment. I would be, if ever that were to happen, I would be really stoked to have Robert Downey Jr. play me. I really would. Robert Downey Jr. has shared every demon that I have shared. Seriously. But and in so many ways, there is a lot about that cat. There's a lot about that cat that make, aside just from drugs, there's a lot that I would be really honored. And I think that wouldn't be a bad call. Yeah, I think we could probably spend a weekend together. And I love Robert Downey Jr. too. It's amazing. It is absolutely amazing. Oh my God. Oh my God. Corinth, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. That's and you know what? I know I tell this story all the time, but I get it. I really do. When my dad passed, and we got thousands and thousands and thousands of people who left messages, I answered them. The first, I don't know how many thousand. They still come in because that video gets so many views, and they were all very positive. But there were so many people who said, I know what you're going through. I just lost, a dog. And I thought to myself, boy, that really is a pretty odd comparison. And I was almost gritting my teeth. But about the 10th I realized that, and then I started thinking back to animals that I had lost. And you know what? I mean, I have a cat named Alice that I mourn to this day. With a great cat that I love. Squirrel is absolutely phenomenal. But I loved Alice. Alice was just a great cat, and she had a very, very long life. Spanky's first cat, Ralph, was incredible. They enrich our lives in ways that we can't explain. But boy, it hurts like hell when we lose them. Still have her two brothers, Cheyenne and Ranger. Well, what a blessing that is, Carantha. Really, that is a blessing. It's one of the reasons that, I'll be honest, it's one of the reasons that I always want more than one cat. Jill Anderson, less than zero saved my life. Wow. Wow. If you have not seen the film Less Than Zero, this is a Robert Downey Jr. film that he played a crack smoker in. He was addicted to crack. I'm not going to do a spoiler alert. I was about to. I'm not going to do that. You should see this film, but it's heavy. It's a heavy, heavy film. It's not a feel-good film. In his high school yearbook, they asked questions: who would you most like to get trapped in an elevator with? And you said Robert Downey Jr. Wow, that's awesome, Dixie. I dig that. I really do. I dig that. We got questions in my high school yearbook. I remember all of them. I really do, because that's like the power band of my, those years I remember really, really quickly. Can Snoop play Q? You know what? I've thought about, honest to God, from the day that I met Q, from the very first time I met Q, I thought, who would play Q in a movie? If Denzel Washington was younger, I think that would have been perfect. Q's a handsome dude. He looks more, he looks probably more like Will Smith, honestly, than like if I had to pick an actor that looked like him, he probably looks more like Will Smith than anyone else. But has glasses, always keeps his hair pretty tightly trimmed. He's like not bald, but just almost bald. But I would love to see Snoop play him anyway. I'm a big Snoop fan, but just so you get a visual, he looks He looks a whole lot more like that. I would probably Will Smith would be the character that you would think. Will Smith comeback role, boy, he needs one, doesn't he? But we will let people come back. Hollywood's great that way. America's great that way. The world is great that way. For real. The world sucks in that they love watching people fall. It's absolutely. Seventh Son, good to see you, man. Glad that you're here. Tampa B. Ah. I'd say eat your heart out. Well, you know what, Tampa Bay? I really do plan this connection thing. I won't lie to you. Meeting Tampa Bay, meeting Reese, meeting Sandy, meeting a lot of these people had an effect. And it had an effect when I met the people out in LA. And it was very sort of centered around the Danny Masterson trial and the foulness that guy is. And I met amazing people, survivors. I met second-gen survivors. It really kind of brought me into a completely different world that I had never seen. And I've made amazing friends from that world. And I've made an enemy or two, right? I'm not a big fan of that cult. And that it will be that way forever, but this was a different environment completely. So when I got to the Danny Masterson trial, everybody kind of knew who I was. And it's a weird situation. Reese, this was a first for Reese. Like Reese has never gone out and done one of these. And I said to her, did it trip you out a little bit? And it is. The first time that happens, when you get out of a car somewhere and everyone knows who you are, but you don't know who anyone is a very odd situation. It's weird. But it was in LA, it was a different weird, right? And in Florida, it was a lovely weird. In LA, there was so much that was about Danny and about that was like this cloud that hung over. Now, I still have made some of the best friends ever from there, but there was no cloud hanging over, Florida. And when we all got together, there was a lot of laughing. It was a really, really good time. And when this was brought up, the idea of maybe going and doing something where you go on the road, I did what I tell everybody not to do, right? And I started thinking about all of the reasons this would be a bad idea, right? That's what I started to do. All of the reasons why this would be a really bad idea, as opposed to all of the reasons why this would be a really good idea, right? But how cool was George? George was as cool as anybody you would ever meet. I mean that, Erica. I mean that. He honestly might be cooler off camera than on camera. I'm not kidding. The generosity of spirit in that guy is well, I'm going to have him on the lifeboat. And I'm more interested in having him on the lifeboat, not to talk about I want to talk to him about connection. He is a connection cat like you've never met. That dude does not know anybody, right? He has never met a stranger. He really hasn't. He is a sweetheart. He really is. He's just one of those people that I bet you'd have a really difficult time finding someone that doesn't like him, right? Can't say that about me, right? I tend to be polarizing. I don't think there's anyone that's going to meet George ever that does not like George. Honestly, Reese rubs some people the wrong way. Anybody whose personality is kind of, people who can have a channel tend to have a personality that's maybe a little bit, larger than life. And sometimes that kind of, rubs people the wrong way. Debbie says George is originally from the south side of Chicago. So I imagine he is really cool. And that's not even the tip of the iceberg. Honest to God. Like I got to spend a decent amount of time talking to George. George is a skier, which is cool. George has a relative who is a member of a famous rock band that I was a huge fan of growing up. So one of his relatives was in Styx. So he had some cool photos, and I mean the guy's got stories for days. The two of us can sit and talk. He has stories for days. I would love to have him on the channel, and I invited him, so it's going to happen. And I don't want to do let's come on here and bag on anything. I would like you guys to meet George. Honest to God. I think that I love what he does, but I think the world needs to meet this cat. Like it just meet him. Because the way that just sitting down and rapping with him was Styx is still amazing. Styx was amazing since Rolling Stone. I agree with you. Just an unbelievable. George was not a Scientologist, by the way. He was not. He's a never in, but he has been living in Clearwater since forever. So he was there prior to them getting there. He watched every bit of it. So his channel is not growing up in Scientology. It is growing up around it. You know, that was right in his wheelhouse of, you know, them coming down there. This is in the prime of his life. He just watched them take a city that he loved and really, really destroy it. Styx Equinox was legendary. Oh man, there's so much stuff that Styx did. That Paradise Theater was the first one that came to mind. That one really, you know what that album, I mean, you know what that whole band was to me, honestly? That was like date music, right? Through high school. Styx was date music. Real. That was dance music. That was prom music. That was date music. Like, because like when I say that my memories from my youth are still really sharp, I wish I could explain that better. But I really have an unusual memory. But Styx really does something. So we just had a lot to talk about. And yeah, he grew up on the south side of Chicago. So we had some really I wore that album out too, no joke. Tampa B. That's, you know what? I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad you said that because honestly, because I can't. You understand that? I know that there are women who get a creepy vibe off of a guy, right? I know that. So I can't say to a very predominantly female audience, and you're not going to get a creepy vibe off of George. I can't say that. I can sure as hell say I didn't. He is just one of the nicest, most genuine guys I've ever met. But I got the feeling from everybody else that was there, they felt the same way. George gets a lot of hugs, right? Everybody seems to love George. Grand Illusion. Oh, man, yeah, Grand Illusion is. But great pictures. He's just, he's like, oh, and here's the picture of his house. And there's just all the stick stuff on the wall and the gold records and the platinum records. And I was like, oh, man. But I'm going to stop talking about that because I'm going to have him on. We can keep talking about Styx, but I'm going to have him on here, and I want very much for him to be able to tell these stories because he's going to do it a hell of a lot better than I can. But that's coming up. There's going to be I'm going to have a lot of people that are going to be coming on here in the next little bit. They will not be coming on the fives. We're going to get the fives back to doing what we do. Styx is coming to Montreal this year to the Big O. Olympic Stadium, I'm guessing. The Big O in Montreal looks like the Starship Enterprise. At least in my head, that's what I always see when I see the Big O. And if you knew how many bands I have seen in Olympic Stadium in Montreal, oh boy! I went to college right across the border, so if anybody, let's see, who Thompson Twins. I saw the Thompson Twins there. I saw the Rolling Stones there. I saw Pink Floyd there a couple of times. Oh, you're getting your car scrapped? Oh, Scoob, no. I'm sorry, Scoob. Thoughts and prayers. You know what? That is a big deal. I know how much that car means, Scoob. I'm sorry. Carantha has Paradise Theater on vinyl in an original. If I think that I'm not joking, all of the Styx vinyl that I had is exactly, I wore the album covers look great, but I literally wore the records out. Like the grooves are so deep. I never let stuff get scratched. I was always kind of, really almost weird about it, about taking care of records. My records don't have scratches on them, but you really can play the hell out of a record. Like you can just the beating of taking it on and off and on and off. Tommy, was Reese what you imagined when you met her in person? Yeah. 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 Yes. 99%. She was exactly who I thought she would be. She was a little bit, no, you know what? No, she was exactly who I thought she was. I take that back. You know what? I'm tainted by last night's show. If you have not seen Reese's show last night, I'm not going to be the same. I'm, I'm, I am having a very hard time. I'm looking at Reese differently since last night's video. I really am. Last night's Too Much Time on My Hands. Great song. Reese did a video last night. I don't even care if you're a Reese fan. You need to go watch this video. For real. There was some really heavy stuff in it, and I thought it was unusual. It was a side of Reese I had not seen, and I dig it. I really do. Thank you, Midnight Show. Mischief Manage says a nickel. A nickel on top of your. I never put a nickel there, but do you know what's funny? I had pennies, and you would put just enough. Like you would put one penny on to get through this. If there was a scratch, 45s always got beat on. 45s always got beat on because of how you had to. When you put them on that stack system, when they land on top of each other, and sometimes two rack, they got beat on. Reese is incredible. She's absolutely incredible. She really is. It's just that I say to her, I mean, how many times have you heard me on her show say, it bums me out that you beat on yourself as much as you do. I think what happened, and we know Reese isn't here, but so we'll talk about her. I think what happened was Reese really met fans. That's never happened to her, right? I've been in a bunch of situations already where I've run into people who run up and tell you your name, which is a really odd phenomenon because that's what people do. Like they run up and go, Reese, right? Or you're Tommy Scoville, right? Or you're relatable Reese. And the first time that happens to you, it is a humbling experience. And I think this really had an effect on her. And I think that she saw the fact that all of these people that say, you know what, you're beautiful, right? You have absolute, to be weird about or feel weird about her. And I know that I've done shows on this. I understand it isn't that simple, right? I've done a bunch of shows on this. I really do understand that. And it is a process. But I think she really saw, right? It's different when people type, right? But when you go and you meet people all of a sudden and they look at you with that, damn girl kind of look, right? And I think she got a lot of that over the course. And I know Tampa Bay got a lot of that, right? And this changes, right? Makes you feel a little better. Unsubscribe gate is real. I just had to resubscribe. And I want to tell you something. If this cat had to resubscribe, then this is real. Because Seventh Son has been a subscriber since 1976, right? Honestly, he was here before this was the Lifeboat. He was here. He's one of the original, like literally one of the original. So you may want to check and see if you're getting bumped out. It has been happening a lot. And if it happened to Seventh Son, that would be like happening to Charlie or happening to, any other, literally like the first 6 or 7 people that ever showed up. Right. So Seventh, I'm glad you saw it. I'm glad you're back. I'm sorry it happened to you, man. That's of all the people, that's just incredible. Tampa B says, J9, a huge effect on all of us. You're next. And you know something? Let me tell you something. So when Tammy said, I just had to resubscribe. See, it's happening to a lot of people. It's happening to a lot of people. Millie, thank you so much. Boom. Question, my other's keeper and I, Mary J, will be doing a show on Thursday night to get to discuss fibromyalgia. Thanks, Captain, for starting the ripple effect. Glad that you're home. Could I get somebody with a ranch to put a link up, please, to my other's keeper? You know, I am doing that because people have said that they're tired of hearing the which sadly I do all the time. I actually had somebody call me on it over the weekend and say, "Oh my God, you do that in person." I really do that. Cinderella's glass slipper resubscribed today. Boy, you know what? You'd think it was a conspiracy. The reason that I don't think it's a conspiracy is it seems to be happening to a lot of channels. A lot of channels. Yes, it is a world tour. And I am not kidding at all. So, and this is the takeaway. This is the takeaway. The takeaway is that I preach connection, right? I do preach it from an office, which is not lost on me. Now, I kind of have to, right? It would be very, very difficult to do 2 shows a day, 365 days a year, right? On the road. Now, all BS aside, my kid can tell you, I tried. I tried through a lot of his youth to do that. Not literally, but I would do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right? And then I would come home and hang out for 2 days, which, you know what? Now might not be a big deal. It was a big deal when he was a kid, and it sucked. And I was painting in my head all of that. Like I was thinking of all of the negative feelings that I felt from being a public speaker. And first of all, if I do this, I'm bringing my kid with me, right? So there wouldn't even be flashbacks from that because Spanx Calhoun would be, a couple of rooms away, which would be nice. But I am absolutely loving the idea. When the idea first got brought up, it was funny how fast people started to roll in with suggestions of places and of things, and then how quickly people started to say, there are some fans we'd like to meet. People who have been in the chat for so long. Charlie's name comes up. Seventh's name comes up. Tampa B probably gets about as much traction as anyone. We get a lot of Tampa B. And I think that's because Tampa B's been seen, right? And I think that has an effect, right? Once we start to, there you go. Another great cat and a watch collector. Sorry, Spanky. I am not supposed to be doing this whatsoever. And I get it. We're waiting currently so that he can start going live. And when he does, we will make sure that we start beating the drum over there. This is another individual that has been in Clearwater for a really long time. Kind of watched all of this happen as well, right? And the guy's got an awesome watch collection, like for real. I mean a watch collection that if you dropped on me, I'd keep them. And that's usually I can't say that about people's watch collections. I really can't. I'm a very picky. He's a watch guy. He's absolutely a watch guy, and I dig that. That really is it makes it a lot of fun to talk to people, right? But also, there's so much perspective. Just like George, Kai's another one there's so much perspective from people that have seen what that creepy group of cultists did to a city. Lucky I am that this worked the way it did. I showed up during a Willie Nelson concert, right? So I'm downtown and it's jumping and there's people everywhere. And it looks to me like every nice city I've ever been in, right? There's people outside at all the sidewalk restaurants. I mean, it was jumping, right? It wasn't so crowded that you were uncomfortable, but it just looked like a bustling, nice Floridian town, right? I've been to a lot of Jimmy Buffett concerts, and it kind of had that kind of that Florida feel, and it was great. And then the next night, I went back up, and it was like like a bomb had gone off, right? I mean, we saw only a handful of people, and if I said it yesterday, and I'm going to say it again because it's just as a content creator, which I guess I am a content creator. How's that? I'm a content creator. As a content creator, watching what George and Reese did when that gentleman walked in, he was carrying his certificate might be the wrong word, but I would describe it as a certificate that declared him clear. He was now clear. And that's a very big deal, right? Dennis the Menace, hold that thought. Hold that thought. So this guy's going clear, and Reese just wasn't being a wise aleck at all, because having been a second gen, she knew how much work and how much effort and all of that this guy, and she was just sweet as all get out, said, congratulations. You know what I mean? And the guy had this big grin on his face. Like he knew she wasn't mocking him, right? And the door opened and they came out and, did the, hey, that's Satan there you're out there with kind of speech. Hey, DJ Daddy-O, good to see you, my brother. He says, that part broke my heart, Tommy. I believe it. I believe it. It was really heavy. And I was watching it, right? And I don't mean I was watching it like watching it. I was watching it. I was like seeing it live stream. That wasn't over there, right? But it was, when I walked over, oh man. And George has talent, by the way, right? He has the ability to do things that I hit play, Reese hits play. Like he's a content creator, but he's got all of that on film. And Reese just kind of opened up. And I think it was one of the most beautiful, honest to God. I mean, it was just really, really amazing stuff. And you know what? I met Kiki, who'd come down from Colorado, I believe. She was from there, but had been visiting and got a chance to come down and see us. And it was amazing how many people popped up. Oh, JD, thank you. That was a pivotal moment for Reese. When you walked over to her, Tommy, I literally teared up. You know what? It was really, really heavy. I don't know. There's a part of me that felt like I should have not walked over there. And then there was a part of me that felt like, I don't know, she really looked like she needed a hug. You know what I mean? Just really, really heavy. But I mean, you want to show how bad that cult is, right? There it is. Right? You just saw it. You just saw how bad that cult is, right? In a way that is as, a picture's worth 1,000 words. What do you think that clip of film is worth? For real. Huh? Every novel that's ever been written on that crap hole child trafficking cult, right? Boom, right there. Nicole McIntyre says, the control is unbelievable, Tommy. It's frightening. No freedom. It is no freedom at all, right? At all. You got to be careful with salsa, Steve Bretton. This is from a guy that's eaten an awful lot of hot sauce. You got to be really careful with salsa. If that stuff starts tasting like club soda, it will give you a day like you have never, ever experienced. Also, by the way, interesting thought. Now they sell jalapenos and they've already cut them up so that you can put them on sandwiches. And they usually have them in a sauce or whatever. In order to make alcohol in prison, you have to create a bug, right? Like basically something needs to rot. That's what alcohol is. It's rotting fruit that can find a way to find sugar to eat, and it burps up alcohol. It's kind of how that whole process works. But if you just take that and shoot like 3 of the jalapenos and a little bit of that juice in, it would turn the batch instantly. And the second they found that out, they got rid of all the jalapeno stuff off the store. And it was such a bummer because it was the only hot stuff I could buy. You know what's weird? I'm getting the weirdest noise. I've never heard it in my ears before. Unless Calhoun's doing it. I don't think so, though. I get about every 2 or 3 minutes, I get this. It's actually kind of a cool noise, but I'd never heard it before. That was one of those moments where you think there are no coincidences. It seemed like you were meant to be there to witness that too, Tommy, and Tampa B, George, etc. And the entire world. You know what I mean? I'm really glad that I was there to see it in person. That I think there are no coincidences. I believe that. But I think that what I was supposed to see there, people have been saying to me since we had 25 people on the lifeboat, people have been saying to me, you really need to go live. I mean, you really need to travel so that you can meet some of your audience. That would be huge. You really need to do that. And my head goes back to all of the awful things that speaking was. My head goes back to living in hotel rooms, not being with my family, long layovers in airports. But I lived it. Like it was what I did every single day, right? And that's not what we're talking about. It's apples and oranges. It's literally so different that there is no reason to even compare the two. And this is, I'm not ripping anybody off. I'm literally going out. And somebody there had the guts to say to me, I said, yeah, it's a cool concept. It's a cool concept, but I did a lot of road stuff and, I kind of like doing what I'm doing from the house. And the person said, yeah, that doesn't really sound like connection to me. Boy, how do you argue that one, huh? That's one of those that leaves you going, nah, maybe I should do it, right? That probably makes sense. I should probably be doing this because it makes a hell of a lot of sense. Oh, that's what it is. Okay, that's cool. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love it when someone tells me something. I mean, I'm getting discord in my ear. That's what I'm getting. Cool. You're right, JD. This is completely different. It's apples and oranges. Number one, I'm not ripping anybody off. That's okay, Calvin. It doesn't bother me in the slightest, by the way. I just wanted you to know what it is. I like it. I like the idea that it's people doing stuff there. I think that's cool. No, you know what? It's completely different. It is completely different. Number one, I wouldn't be living on the road, right? And number two, this is connection. And I watched the small amount of connection that we had the first night that we got together. And I'm talking about an hour, right? It was a very short, both nights were pretty short. It might've been a couple hours the first night, maybe 2 hours. But the second night, I was there a little bit longer, and I watched people change. I watched people change. I watched people's eyes that were down come up. I watched people's shoulders that were rolled come back. I watched people start looking different. I watched people start looking happy. I started seeing people look confident. And I think it was based on the fact that people say a lot of stuff here. Oh, you know what? You're beautiful. You really are. You're a beautiful person, No, there's no reason you should be break. Then they see you, right? And you can BS all you want on a computer, right? You can tell you anything you want. Say it. Then they see you in real life and they see that, you know what? That's exactly what they see in your eyes. And it has an effect. And you know what? There's a lot of people out there that are beating the crap out of themselves for what they look like, what they feel like, all of these things that really the trivial wrapping stuff is really kind of, I mean, honestly, especially for us. I mean, we're of an age, are we not? We're of an age. It's hard. It's hard. I see a kid who's 22, right? And you see him, running down the road or working out or whatever, and you see him and you just go, oh my God. I had a body like that. You know what I mean? There was a time I looked like a Greek statue. I'm not kidding you. But those days go away. And you know what? The next ones are better. I'm not kidding you. Our problem is, and I'm talking about all of us, man. Our problem is we're parked on the A side, right? I don't mean that we're really all under the age of 45, so it doesn't matter. But I'm saying once we start to get past that, we start going back to, let's look back at the glory days and how great they were, because nothing's good from here on out, right? So, right, let's look back. Danny's mom, thank you so much. Really appreciate the support. Kind of still do, right? Kind of still do, right? Glory days, they'll pass you by. Glory days. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. I did a lot of it. I did. I've been doing it here. I have been. You know, I got a diagnosis that's been making me live my life a little differently than I should. And you know what? I'm not going to. I'm not going to anymore. I promise. I'm going to have to live my life differently than I did when I was on the A side, right? And I'm going to forget a lot of your names. I am. You know, that may happen from night 1 to night 2. You might have to introduce yourself a couple of times. But you know what? Who cares? Right? Who cares? Connection is digging people for who they are, right? Not who they were, not what they look like today or what they looked like back then, who they are. And an amazing thing happens. I swear to God, an amazing thing happens. You start loving people, right, for who they are. And I start coming to the belief that there's a time in our life where we're not good at that at all. And I can't speak for women. I can't. I can speak for men, right? And I don't just mean me. I spent way more time with nothing but men than any human being should ever have to do, right? 20% of my life I spent hanging out with dudes who all day long talked about women, right? And guys really, really remember, you know, as when you're a kid, you concentrate on things that mean absolutely nothing, right? And sadly, we imprint so much when we're young that this is where you hear the statements like, well, guys don't like women like me, or guys don't like girls that, or guys don't do that. You know what? Shut up. I'm sorry, because what you really mean, I'm sorry, but what you mean is boys don't like. That really is what you mean. You don't mean men. You mean boys. I'm sorry, but that's a fact, right? And that's just the way it is. I recently came across a pic of my ex on Insta, and it gave me such a weird Scientology feeling. Made me feel like vomiting. Those culty vibes. Midnight. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I really am. That, you know, I saw a lot of that on our last night there. People just walked by, and I don't yell at them. I don't feel like, I feel like if I was a second gen, I would be going up and talking to those people. I would, right? I would feel really, I don't feel like I can. I don't feel like I can. And for that reason I didn't, but I watched a lot of it. And there really is kind of that culty vibe that really bums me out. But Tommy Bird, somebody get that damn message up there. Thank you, Spanx Calhoun. Right? I love all women. I got news for you. Tommy Bird didn't love all women when he was 16. Right? Boys don't do that. But I make you a promise that men get older and we have an ability. I'm telling you, and it may be that we just have to go on the road and let people see this. I really believe this needs to happen. And I'm looking forward to it. You know what? It's going to be a lot of Tommy Bird says, no, he didn't, sadly. I didn't either. I bet you that I probably lost out on some of the most amazing people in the entire world because I was too shallow to find out whether they were cool people or not. But that is somehow hardwired into young men. It's not a cool thing, but I do honestly believe it takes time. It would be interesting to hear from some people who didn't do all of the stuff that we've done. I mean, let's be honest. You know what I mean? We haven't set the world on fire with our with our decision making processes. It would be interesting to see if all people, but I kind of believe that 1 second here. I love you, Seventh. I love you, Seventh. That is such a great comment. That is such a great comment, right? It is such a great comment. And it is not something you believe as a kid, because that's not what you do. But then you know what happens? I'm gonna tell you what happens. What happens is this: you over time you get to a point where you go, you know what? If I could sit down and have a conversation with somebody, and that person could make me smile, and the person could make me feel good, and if in the process I make that person feel good about themselves, there's probably nothing physically that could screw up me falling in love and marrying that person. Nothing. And I don't mean, don't get it messed up. I don't mean I would learn to settle with this, or this. What I mean is when you fall in love, you fall in love with the big scar that you guys can't see that I've got here on my nose. You fall in love with the huge scar that I got here on the side of my face, right? Things I picked up in prison, right? You meet me in real life, you will notice some things about me that you're probably not going to see live. I have, like, my arms really look scarred up, and there are people who love them. They love them because as you get older and you really feel connection, which I don't think is possible as a kid. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. But I believe as you get older and that connection starts to happen, you don't love somebody in spite of those things, right? You love them because of them, right? All of those scars become the things that light you up. They're the things that say that person belongs to me, right? All of those things make that person so uniquely mine. Sandy McKenna, you know why, Sandy? Sandy's on a mission. That's why. Sandy McKenna's great, by the way, and sounds like all of my relatives growing up. You know what I mean? Like the first thing I said to her, I think was, I don't think that accent is from Georgia. She has a very Long Island accent, and you know what? New York accents like that really make me feel like, first of all, I feel young again. That's one of those things that makes me, because when I was young, that's how everybody in my life sounded. And then you get older and you move to different parts of the world, but that was the accent of my youth. Ooh, that's really good advice. That's cool advice, Jen Gunn. If a guy is chatting you up, listen very closely to how he talks about other women in his life, because that is how he will talk about you. Very interesting. Probably great advice. Honestly, probably great advice. And Taekwondo, all of the scars tell the story of my life. Love it. Love it. Oh, and you want to hear something else? I'm going to tell you something else. I've been waiting for a very, very long time to get ink. I am a tattoo person, but I don't randomly go out and get stuff just to feel the pain. Right? A lot of tattoo people do, and they cover themselves from head to toe, and I have no problem with that because I get it. I saw there's a tattoo shop in New Orleans. I don't know if it's still in business, called Itching for Ink, right? And I remember the first time I saw that, I was like, that is the greatest name for a tattoo parlor ever, because you do get that. Like if you're a guy that's got a lot of tattoos, you do start wanting to go and hear it and feel it, and that third you start itching for ink. And I've been itching for a long time, and I know Johnny's been. We've talked about going down, and we've even scouted shops that said you can come in and film, and like we're ready to go. But I don't pick something off the wall, and I'm very kind of picky about the things I put on myself. And obviously, there's going to be a lifeboat tattoo, right? There's going to be a lifeboat tattoo, and I found what I want. I found what I want. Sorry. Well said, Tommy. Some of us have scars that show on the outside, but we all have them on the inside. These are the marks of our lives, and they make us us. One of the worst people I ever met. Honestly, this was not a good human being in the long haul. Really wasn't. was not a great person in the long haul. By the way, I'll get back to my tattoo. But I was telling this person I was coming clean to this. This was a woman that I was in the process of falling for, and I came clean and said, I spent a lot of my life addicted to heroin, and went down through some of the other things. And she said, "Are there any? You got any residuals from that?" And I wasn't sure where where she was going with that at first, and I was like, "Oh, you mean do I have Hep C or HIV or any of that stuff?" And she's like, "Yeah." I go, "I do not. I do not. I wasn't someone that shared needles or whatever." Now, I since then have gone away, caught Hep C, got rid of it, right? All that. But at the time, there was none of that. And I said, "No, the only thing I have is track marks." I'm like, "But I got a lot of them." And I had seen this girl in a bathing suit, right? This girl didn't have any marks on her body. And she grabbed my hands and she said, "We all have track marks." And it was one of the coolest things anyone had ever said. She didn't turn out to be that cool a person, but it was one of the coolest things anyone ever said because it's the truth. We all have track marks, right? Mine are visible as all hell. I promise you. You meet me in person, people, you're going to know I was a junkie. But there are so many of those. It's if your scars are on the outside, sometimes people come up and are a little nicer to you because of them. If your scars are on the inside, we need to know about them so we can be a little nicer to you, right? Remember all that "don't suffer in silence" stuff? Do you think that's a catchphrase? Do you think I'm just looking to sell a t-shirt later? Right? So back to my tattoo. I found my next tattoo. And I will tell you this. It is Alice in Wonderland inspired. It is from an artist that I'll unveil. I promise I'll tell you who the artist is. And it is just one of the coolest things I've ever seen. I can't wait to debut it. And for all of you who are fans, I'm getting it right here. So it's going to be a pretty decent sized tat. I know that some of you are not fans of ink. I promise you're going to like this one. And the artist, I love the artist. So it's going to be a very, very cool thing. Tommy, so glad you got rid of the Hep C. My dad had Hep C and HIV from sharing needles. Didn't get it from sharing needles. This is a very unusual story. I was vicious about needle sharing. When I was married to a woman who was an IV user at one time. I shared needles with that woman. Didn't really matter because of everything else that woman and I had done. That wasn't going to be. But neither of us had ever shared a needle outside of the relationship. There was never, and I never did this because I knew. I knew what the odds are. I knew everything that I didn't. If you had to, you can get bleach, you can do stuff. I have done that for other people. Someone who said, "I'm going to use dude's needle." I said, "Whoa, let me clean that for you. Please, if you're going to do that, please let me do that." Right. But I've never shared a needle. I was trying to save a guy's life and he had a split in the back of his head. This was a prison thing and I was holding my hand in it. And when he moved, it shot. It was arterial blood, and it literally just looked like a stripe that went directly across both of my eyes and just covered. Like I couldn't see. It was so bad. And the paramedic that came in first looked at me and said, "If this guy has anything, you have it." He said, "Your eyeball will suck anything into it." He said, if that blood is tainted in anything, you have it. And I said to him, I'm like, and the dude's still in the room, right? He was, I won't say his name, but the guy who was bleeding was still in the room. I called him Badger. Well, we can use his nickname. But I was like, "Badger, please tell me you don't have HIV. You don't have HIV. Please, God." He goes, "No, I don't have HIV." I said, "Thank God." He's like, "I got Hep C, but I'm sure you already have that." And I said, well, yep, I probably do. And I went and got tested and I had it. But my numbers were good. And what happens is they keep waiting for your numbers to get bad. And when your numbers get bad enough, then they will treat you with Harvoni. And they just kept telling me they're not going to treat me. 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 I'm like, why the hell not? Right? What am I? And they said, your numbers are so low. So then I got to the very last prison I was going to. And I knew I was going to be there for 6 months. And it's 80 days to treat, right? Or was it at the time? So I was kicking the door down. I'm like, look, man, you're going to treat my stuff because I'm not going to get on the street and try to pay for this. I want this stuff treated now. And they said, you don't have it. And I said, you're so foolish. I have been tested 10 times. I can show you all of the other tests. He goes, bro, you don't have it. He said, it shows you have had it. He said, you have, like if you heal somebody with it and you take a blood test, you can see that they've had Hep C and that they've been treated for Hep C. And he said to me, you've already been treated. And I said, I've not already been treated, right? I've not already been treated. I would know if I had taken a Harvoni every day for X number of days, I would have known, right? He says, listen to me, you've been treated. So I don't trust anybody in the BOP. So one of the first things I did when I get out, hold on 1 second. Literally one of my shutdown moments, people. My brain just went, turn the computer off. Listen, and I am going to get so much better at saying this. And this is what I took away from this weekend. One of the things that I said is, I'm not going to go on the road because cognitive decline, right? I never did this as a speaker. This was not something that happened to me. I mean, it happened 10 times, 15 times, but I could always get back to wherever I was at. And you know what? I don't care anymore. I don't. Because it's like the person who is totally convinced that they're not going out in public because they have ugly toes, right? Or the person that is so bummed out at the lines at the corner of their eyes or that their earlobes have a crease in them. I have heard the dumbest things in the entire world. Well, you know what? This makes me who I am, right? And if I let this do this, then the boat's gonna stop way before it should. The boat's never gonna stop. Spanx Calhoun's gonna end up in the chair. But I should stay, I was planning on bailing a lot faster than I should have because of this. But after this week, I had so many people who said, who cares? Who cares? Just tell us you forgot what you were talking about. Who cares? I'm not going to. If I lose it, I'm not going to let it bother me. I'm just going to roll on. Sorry. Would I rather have, my hands are really bad too. My hands are really messed up too. People, it's one of the funny things is, funny not ha-ha, but funny. I knew a guy that I met in prison who had 3 fingers, right, on both hands. Now, they looked like this, right? So he had a thumb and these two were, and this dude could do things with like anybody else. Like you should, with a deck of cards, he'd be going, and I remember the first time this guy put his hand out for me to shake it. And I didn't look at the guy's hand. I just shook it. And I remember it was a very odd feeling. And I'm sure I made a face. And I met this guy in prison. You know how cold-hearted people are? Like they were not nice to this dude, right? Because of it, he got picked on a lot. But after about 2 weeks of knowing this dude, I swear to you, I never noticed his hands again. I never noticed his hands again. Now I'm going to tell you something. You saw him the first time, you would have walked in the opposite direction because that feeling of just, oh man, that's just, there's no walking away. This guy lives 2 doors down, right? I'm not going to be able to avoid him at the grocery store. I'm not going to be able to, this guy lives 2 doors down. He wants to play poker at my poker table, right? He wants to deal when it's his turn to deal. He's a great guy, solid dude, right? The amazing thing is that this dude ended up in my drug group. And you would think, You wouldn't have to peel that onion very deep to find out why that dude, right, started doing drugs, right? That had to be tough growing up. Nope, had nothing to do with it. Honest to God, had nothing to do with it. And I started talking to him. I said, how's that? He said, man, I grew up in a really small town. He said, there were about 13 people in my first grade class. He said, and by the time I was in second grade, none of them gave a crap. He said, didn't give a crap. He had a real bad problem with a relationship with his father that led to a lot of the stuff that he did. But he was more at ease with his hands than any person was with a deformity, different formity, whatever you want to call it, than anyone else I had ever met. Inspirational almost. So guess what? When I forget what the hell I'm talking about, people, I would love to tell you that it's ADHD. It's not. There's not medication for this, but I'm going to keep doing this. And you know what? Every once in a while, I'm going to forget what the hell we're talking about. In my brother does, yeah, but you did more dope than anybody. You're just a little bit burnt out, with all due respect. Oh yeah, well, he's had a lot of concussions too. Yeah. Well, and one in particular that just the car wreck concussion was so bad. Johnny literally was. I mean, Johnny's sharp as a tack, but he was never the same after that. He really wasn't. He was a different human being after he went through the window of that car. And in a lot of ways, better. You dated a girl that had extra digits on her hands and feet. Wow. Let me tell you something about this. I have hair on my legs. So does my oldest daughter. She doesn't even shave under her arms. My hippie child. Let me tell you something. Spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time with the Grateful Dead, and you run into a lot of girls at the Grateful Dead that don't care a whole lot about a razor. And you know what? What's that?
Sugar magnolia.
Jody Scoville just yelled, that's just sugar magnolia. That doesn't bother me a bit. She had rings on her fingers and bells on her shoes. Sorry, I had a flashback. Susie Q says, I don't care. You know what? She says, you know what? I don't care either. And you know what? I'm going to say it. Johnny Scoville, start yelling the name of every town you can think of real quick. Too late. I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it anyway. You know what? I think they should bring back the Bush. And I'm leaving with that. That's that. That's how I'm leaving it. I'm sorry. I'm leaving it. I think they should bring back the Bush. I'm sorry. This here is a cat in a basket. All right. Johnny is in the other room going like this with a non-existent cigarette lighter. He's lighting a non-existent cigarette lighter. He's lighting a non-existent cigarette lighter in the other room. The scars on my arms are ugly from bad coping skills. Can't hide them. Wish I could. All right, let's do this. All right, people, ready? Can you see these? There's one. There's one. There's one. Now, in real life, these look a little different than they do. Can you see the compound fracture? Okay, can you see that? All right, this is one arm. This is one arm. And by the way, this is the better arm. Right? This covered a whole multitude of sins, right? A multitude of sins. But my right arm, oddly enough, you would think that being right-handed, I would have wanted the syringe in my right hand. But because I'm right-handed, the veins on my right side were so much easier to hit that and I'm sorry if I'm triggering anybody, but I always went from left to right. So my right arm is 10 times as bad as my left one. And you know what? I don't care. I don't care anymore. A couple of them stick out. See a couple of them from there. They're all over the place. Guess what? I don't care. Toss the razors. Taekwondo for life. Would not bother me in the slightest. Would not bother me in the slightest. Toss those razors. Toss the razors would not be a bad t-shirt, but neither would bring back the bush. I'm going to catch crap for this, but it is what it is. Tommy, I have a 4-pack. Thank you. Thank you, 7th. I appreciate the hell out of that. I'll take it. I'll take it. Oh, DJ Daddy-O, I have a lot of friends who are welders. Welders get scarred. Yeah, they get scarred. They get scarred. They get scarred. They get scarred. That's a tough line of work. Tommy Bird, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. But you know what? Here's the thing. I'm old enough that I remember the transition. Like, I remember that transition. And that transition for me was deadly. Like, I really had a hard time with that transition. Made you feel weird for a long time. And it was uncomfortable. And yeah. Thank you, Steve. Steve's still here. Appreciate the hell out of you. All right, people. I'm Captain Tommy. I'm going to go run around, see my kid, do some of the other things that I need to do. There he is. There's Calhoun in the new den. Love the exposed wall. Soon you're going to be talking to him again. I got to bring him his microphone. Can you believe I had his microphone held hostage? All right, people. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and I'll see you on the next one. God bless. Bye-bye. Thanks, Spanky.